Hey friends, welcome back. Last time we talked a lot about how to actually get started in the home buying process. We spent a bunch of time on figuring out how to select a great agent and a great lender and how it's your call. Then we touched on viewing homes, and pretty much by this point we're going to assume that you've got one under contract. Yay! But what happens next? The following is secret information that no one tells you until you're actually in escrow. But we're going to tell you right now. You know what's funny? The typical escrow time frame, meaning, the time from, yay, we're in the contract to here are the actual keys to your house, is about 30 to 45 days. That's a question we hear all the time. But the reason is kind of interesting. You see, it has nothing to do with us, or has nothing to do with you buying the house, or has nothing to do with the seller and giving them time to get out. Nope. That's just how long it takes for the lender to complete the loan. So while they're futzing around with all their boring paperwork, we're largely just sitting around and waiting. But not before we complete a few really important due diligence items. Right, so really I guess there's two simultaneous timelines here. Two different lanes. The lender's lane and the agent's lane. Now we're gonna do our best to stay in ours, but I don't see any local lenders providing videos on this topic, so we might just dabble a little bit in their lane. But keep in mind, we are not lenders. Okay, so most of the things in our lane are in the beginning. So the first week or two are critically important. Number one would be scheduling an inspection. Now, normally, that's why nobody does this kind of content, because every transaction is just a little bit different. Okay, you got to understand that the things we're about to outline and discuss here are just the things that we kind of normally see, generally see, more often than not. That doesn't mean it'll be the same in your transaction. And don't even get us started on new construction, because those are like a whole different ball of wax. So just kind of take this with a grain of salt. Maybe a shot of tequila. Is that enough disclosures on don't really trust everything verbatim in this video and, just kind of absolve us for all responsibility? Does that work? Okay, good. So the first thing you got to do when you're getting into contract, generally speaking, is get that inspection scheduled and get your earnest money in. Earnest money is basically good faith money that kind of goes along with the offer. Usually it's about 1%, but your agent might encourage you to do more. This is money that is technically a part of the down payment money that you hand over at the signing/closing table. You get it. Now, earnest money is money that is technically at risk if you want to get out of the contract for no good reason later on down the road. We say for no good reason because there are plenty of ways that you can get out of the contract and get your earnest money back. Those are called contingencies. Now the main one is the inspection contingency. That's where we have about 10 business days to have an inspector come in and check out the house, inspect all the inner systems of the house to see that there aren't some major issues that would, want to cause the buyer to want to bail from the sale altogether. Usually inspectors are backed out about a week to 2 weeks, so getting them scheduled is really important right from the beginning. The earnest money is due typically within 3 business days of entering into contract, and so that also needs to be deposited into the escrow account promptly. The escrow company is the third party who holds everyone's hands and is neutral to the transaction. They can also be called title and escrow, or just escrow. Some other states use attorneys for this job as well, but in Oregon, not so much. So the next few things we need to discuss are the title report, which comes from the title and escrow company. This is where you're going to want to review that and make sure the house has a nice clean title. Also the seller's property disclosure, SPD. This is a document that the sellers fill out that discloses the seller's knowledge about the property. So is the house in good shape? Do you have authority to sell it? Do all the systems of the house work? It's like 7 pages long in tiny font. with like a billion little checkboxes. Another is the HOA addendum. This is a document that requests all of the HOA information so that the buyer can make an informed decision on whether or not they want to put up with the HOA. Oh, and how much it is and what the rules are and stuff like that. You see, all these little documents and disclosures are like little mini get out of jail free cards. They are legitimate reasons for getting out of the contract, earnest money and all. And usually these end up coming around in the first week or two of being in contract. And so this usually ends up lining up with the home inspection timeline as well. You can see how the first 2 weeks can be really important. So if you're gonna get cold feet, do it right away. But in the other lender lane, there are things there that they're gonna need from you as well to make sure that they can stay on target and get to a successful closing as well. Paperwork is a big one, and it may come in multiple phases. Initially, they're gonna ask for a bunch of it up front. Taxes, pay stubs, bank statements, your firstborn. Then what will happen is near the end, it'll go to the underwriter. Now that's the dreaded person who basically double checks all of the details of your life to make sure that all the puzzle pieces go together and so that they can be assured that you can actually repay back the loan. Wouldn't want another episode of 2008. And almost every time they need additional documentation. Sometimes it's super easy. Actually, most times it's really easy. Other things that aren't in your control but could come up during the escrow process are appraisal problems. I feel like we're going in the woods here pretty deep. We'll just keep going. The bank or lender won't give you more than the house is worth. So they rely on an independent appraiser to go out and basically to assess the value of the house. Now, if the appraiser has a different opinion of value than the buyer, basically lower, then the lender won't give you the loan and you can't buy the house. Now, there are ways around this, and it kind of creates another loophole in which you can technically get out of the contract and still retain your earnest money. However, since this usually doesn't come up to the very end of the escrow process, there's pressure on both sides to make sure that the deal actually closes. So sometimes the buyer can bring in more cash to offset the difference. Sometimes the seller can actually lower the price to match the appraised value, or sometimes there's some sort of a compromise where the buyers can bring in more cash and the sellers can reduce the price. It's a win-win for everybody. That way we can get the deal to the finish line and have a successful closing. Then again, also, sometimes it busts the whole deal and everyone goes home empty-handed. And that's always fun. Okay, to review, get the earnest money in. Get the lender the documentation they need promptly. Settle up on the inspection contingency. Approve of all the other title and property disclosures. Get a nice clean appraisal. Pack, don't forget that. And then close and get the keys. Hot dang, that was a lot. Pack that in there. If you're lost, don't worry, I am too, and I do this for a living. No, not really. But this is very complicated, and it's kind of in a language that we use on the daily that we're very comfortable with, but not everybody has necessarily heard of before. But don't worry, if you need any help, chances are you will have an amazing real estate agent by your side, or maybe us. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and hit the like button on the way out. Leave us a comment if you do so wish. And also check out our next playlist that'll be coming up in a second that deals more with the nuts and bolts of how real estate actually works. Give it a look, check it out. Thanks again. We'll see you next week.